politics from the left side of things. Okay, so I got a rant, but my guest tonight cannot participate in the rant. I'm just gonna let you know now. She's got a non-for-profit organization, and we are not trying to get folk in trouble. But you know me, and I'm glad that she's here tonight because there's a couple of issues that I know that'll be near and dear to her that we will talk about. But first of all, IBJ reports that there are nine lawmakers who have announced that they will not seek re-election in 2022. All of the Republicans and 5 of them would have had to face off against another incumbent had they decided to run again. Thanks to the district maps, I know that there's someone down in Bloomington who's a little not happy because the Republicans feel like all of the decisions came from Hamilton and Marion County Republicans, because we know Democrats didn't have anything to do with that. None at all. So if Republicans is upset, they need to talk to their peoples. But there is one Democrat, a notable Democrat that is leaving, and that is Senator Karen Tallian of Ogden. She said, you know what? I have had enough. I've had enough. I'm ready to go. So they will caucus in another Senate member. Remember last week I talked about the precinct committee people and the roles that they play. The precinct committee people will caucus in someone after Senator Karen Tallian steps down on November the 1st. But some notable Republicans that are stepping down, and I'm saying these things because now these seats are, you know what, they can be a little bit more competitive if we choose to be competitive Democrats. House Ways and Means Chairman Tim Brown of Crawfordsville, which, y'all, I ain't mad he ain't running anymore, because every time we turned around, Tim Brown was writing new legislation to somehow or another disenfranchise, the Lake County, Allen County school boards by trying to Muncie school boards by trying to take over the school boards after parents had elected those school boards. So I ain't mad he's gone. Bye-bye. Senator Dennis Kraus of Auburn, he's leaving. Representative Tim Saunders of Louisville, not Louisville, Louisville. He's decided to turn the page on his incredible chapter of his life and blah, blah, blah. Other Republicans are Republican Tony Cook of Cicero, Republican Representative Doug Goodwin of Francisville, Don Leahy of Brookston, Cindy Zimke of Batesville, yay. Ron Grooms of Jeffersonville, I know some folk. And then Phil Boots of Crawfordsville. So listen, the reason why I bring this up, these people are stepping down, redistricting. I don't know, their plans in the House and on the Republican side is always suspect. I do believe that they had some members that they wanted to get rid of, but I wasn't in the room, so I can't say if that's true or not. Speculation. But at the same time, there's opportunities here. It may not seem like it because a lot of our districts are very much gerrymandered, but now is the time for us to get in these communities, because there's going to be people who are going to be voting for a new person for the first time. And so you'll have the opportunity, if you're interested in running, to get your name out there and be competitive with a solid message and a solid plan. You have to have field organizing and get your volunteers together and your mobilization plan. You can shake some things up. You can make some people nervous, and you might make people spend some money. You know what I'm saying? I know that sounds like a consolation prize, but if we can keep Republicans spending money on competitive races, you know what I'm saying? It just keeps them from doing other stuff that they may want to do. So, consider that. Consider that. But as we talk about getting involved and we talk about voting, I gotta tell you, this is the main reason why we've got to do it. The U.S. Senate Republicans blocked the voting rights bill. And not even they blocked the voting rights bill, they blocked them having a discussion on the voting rights bill. Now, first and foremost, the biggest problem I have about all of this is Republicans go to the Senate and they are paid a very healthy salary, and we are footing the bill. And these people aren't even doing their job. That includes Senator Young, who will be on the ballot in 2022. Now, Please understand, the report came out that he raised $1.5 million the last reporting cycle. $1.5 million. I know some of y'all think, well, money shouldn't matter, but it does. And if you don't have your team together so that you can compete and raise $2 million, because you're going to have to outspend them, $2 million, I'm going to need you to reevaluate what you're trying to do. I want you to run. I want you to get involved, but I also want you to know what you're doing. There's a reason why, because these guys are doing everything they can to prevent us from having true access to the ballot box. Red states all over the country are putting up these rules and blocks to prevent people from registering and actively casting their vote. I don't know if you guys saw the numbers, the demographic numbers. In Texas, white folk only make up about 35% of the population. I want y'all to let that sink in. They're only about 35% of the population down in Texas, but they have 60% or more of the Texas state house seats. And black and Asians make up, or they control the districts, the way they explain it, control the districts. Blacks and Asians make up over 12%, and they represent zero. They have control of zero. Hispanics are woefully underrepresented as well. They have a huge population, but their representation and control over their districts is not balanced. And with these guys in the Senate preventing the federal government from enacting rules, it's not like they've not done it before. We had the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which Chief Justice Roberts wants to gut at every chance he gets. You see what I'm saying, y'all? Do you feel me? We have got to be mobilized, and we've got to be serious, because you will see more anti-choice bills coming out. You will see more bills that discriminate against people and make it so that the minority is in complete control of everything, and you have no control over anything. We will still have people that will be climate change deniers. We will still have people showing up at school board meetings acting like total behinds. We'll have all these things if we do not address this voting rights bill. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know we can't shame them, because they have no shame. They have no shame. And look at the January 6th Commission. They have no shame. They don't care about whether or not you get to participate in this government. They don't care. Care less. But it's up to you to find a way to make it happen. And they say they're not going to stop. Senator Chuck Schumer says they're not going to stop. They're going to keep fighting. But if you don't get rid of that filibuster, I don't know what we're going to do. So, y'all, it's time to get busy. No more sitting around wringing your hands waiting for somebody else to come save us, because nobody else is going to do that. We have to save ourselves. And if you haven't noticed, we black women, we ain't scared to go into a good old dog fight when it's necessary. We've been dog fighting since we've been on this planet, so we used to it. I saw the other day where 2 school board representatives, and I can't remember the little town, they're stepping down because they can't handle the harassment. I'm going to need some strong people that got some scars and some wounds, some battle wounds, to go sit on these school boards. The ones that can't be intimidated by loud mouths. There's work to be done, y'all. If you think this is a joke, keep on waiting. Keep on waiting. If you think it's a joke, because it's not. Times are changing. And that's why I'm excited about my guest tonight. Her name, and she told me how to pronounce the last name, and I still am going to mess it up. Jalyn Radziminski. Did I get it right?
You got it, yeah.
Yes, all right. And she, you know what? I met this young lady when I was on a Fort Wayne IDAC meeting, and she came on talking about all the interesting things that she is working on. And I got so excited. I was messenger like, yo, we got to connect. We got to get it. I gotta hear all the stuff that you're talking about. But she's a community activist. She's serious about this business, and she is the founder of an organization. I believe she said founder. Yes, founder. Okay, founder of Count Us In, And Count Us In is an Indiana-based movement whose mission it is to elevate citizens' voices and foster inclusive, equitable political participation by encouraging diverse voter turnout, educating citizens and voting rights and protections and combating voter suppression and blah blah and all of that. Y'all, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Yes.
I have been so looking forward to this because you are so energetic. You're full of positive energy, which is what I try to be about. Except for when I'm calling out them knuckleheads, because I will call them knuckleheads. My mama won't let me call them nothing else. She'll get me from on high. But tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Yeah, so hi everybody. My name's Jalyn. About me, I was born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Allen County. I've been here most of my life. I went to college out of state to Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. Really great experience just seeing a civil rights hub, especially in the state where John Lewis would show up to marches, so I was very inspired. After graduation, I majored in human rights and linguistics to study a language. And afterwards, I graduated and I was like, well, I care about human rights and civil rights. This is a big passion. And that's when I actually applied to Fair Fight Action shortly after I graduated. And that's Stacey Abrams founded that organization in Georgia to make voting rights and voting access more equitable. And I was just really inspired by that because I was like, wow, voting really touches every civil and human right, everything. So I was like, yes, this is the lane right here. And it just evolved. I identify as a Black and Asian woman. I also identify as a person with a disability, and I really wanted to dig into the other aspects of myself as well. Just just being able to bring my full self to advocacy, because I feel like sometimes, especially Black and BIPOC communities, like we feel like we have to code switch sometimes.
All the time. All the time. I work in IT in the daytime, so I'm working.
Yeah.
It's all the time, and we shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to be ourselves and be comfortable.
Yeah, so I got involved with Fair Fight. I was a legislative aide, just learning the ropes because I was like, I need to learn everything I can. So when I go back home, Indiana is not the same as Georgia, but I at least have some skills to bring back, something to contribute. And I was working in Fair Fight Action, and I was away for college, like out of state, like I said, and it came time to vote absentee, and I wasn't able to vote. And it was a shameful experience because I'm like, wow, I thought I did everything. I'm working at a voting rights organization as a fellow. I reached out to get my absentee ballot a month early. I was trying to check every box, and I didn't get my absentee ballot I requested at that point about over a month prior till the day of the election. And I was like, oh, it broke my heart, because I was like, wow, I'm doing this voting rights work, but I can't vote. This is wild. So then I got online and I saw like friends were being discriminated against at the polls. I have a couple family members who also have disabilities where work 9 to 5. The centers were closed down early without notice. Just a lot of different barriers. So I'm like, there's people fighting in Georgia, but who's fighting for us in Indiana to be able to simply vote our rights? So that's when I started to just talk to people and founded Count Us In. Right after my vote was suppressed in November 2019, I was like, I don't care. If I get 10 people to vote, that's cool with me, because it'll be me plus 10 others this time. And it just evolved into this great movement organization across the state that I'm just grateful to invest so much time and love into, honestly.
See, and that's the magic word right there, love. So you know what? After Stacey Abrams, started Fair Fight and she began to win statewide races, a lot of people around the state were like, "Where is our Stacey Abrams?" Well, the answer to that is, we've got plenty of Stacey Abrams around here. They just ain't named Stacey Abrams. They are named Indiana's Own and some other people, right?
Right.
But I have not had the training that you've had working with Fair Fight, what are some of the key elements that she was able to implement? They may or may not fit with what's going on in Indiana, but what are some of the key elements that you learned as a fellow there with Fair Fight?
Yeah, not to get like too deep into all their stuff, but like the big themes is that you have to center community, and that's something like just as someone who is really engaged in just different activism in the civil rights
Mm-hmm.
world, that's something I really want Indiana to be able to understand. We can't just have representatives from any party saying, well, I'm in charge, so this is what I'm going to do despite what you think. Like, that's not acceptable, right? Like, it really ingrained in me, like, oh, representatives, senators, every level, there is public service, and you're
Mm-hmm.
doing a disservice to the community if you are not listening to everyone. And that's why, like, Counterson, we said your voices matter. We were trying to make sure everyone's voice is uplifted because I think a lot of times the assumption is our communities don't have a voice. They do. It's just people aren't listening. So with that experience, it was just a lot of digging deep, like going out to the rural areas to hear people, to meet with people, make sure they're able to vote. It was able to reach out to different BIPOC communities. They do a lot with the disability community as well, making sure things are accessible. And if you look up cases in Indiana, there are cases um, from disability rights, different networks here that are happening. So that's something that I think is really helpful to work on.
I love it. And see, and that's the thing because people, some of us have been talking about let's get out in these communities and let's not just wait until it's time to vote, to show up and ask them to vote. You got to be in the community all the time. But, even though she had some, Georgia had success, and I don't want to just say her because we know that there were multiple organizations on the ground that were doing similar, work. What were some of the pitfalls that you saw? What were some of the things that you saw that maybe didn't go well?
Yeah,
From some of the things that didn't necessarily work.
yeah. I think the a challenge was, Count Us In. We were started in November 2019, and I had all these big ideas. Right, we're gonna go out on campuses. We're gonna have route like it's gonna be amazing. And COVID. Um, so that's something I'm still learning to navigate because Count Us In. We serve a lot of historically marginalized communities, but the balance of serving, BIPOC communities to center racial equity, but also accessibility for our disability community members, because that's an issue I'm passionate about as well. It's a lot of times where I have to make really tough calls where I want to be hosting in person community events, but also acknowledging there's people that are immunocompromised that have certain risks that cannot show up. So I really had to train myself to be able to like make sure every meeting that was digital had captioning, had ASL interpreters, making sure I had funding for that. And when I went out in the communities, like making sure I had time to drive out and table in rural areas. So it's just a lot of balancing acts that I think I learned the most from because finding ways to make sure everyone has a seat at the table and just able to participate without barriers in this climate, it was mind-boggling at times, because some
Absolutely.
people need to be right there, and but I also don't want to put people at risk. So it was me just navigating out of love, just being protecting people, but also making sure we reach as many people as possible, honestly. And so that's the tough part when you're serving so many groups. But I also think that's the beautiful struggle. Like these are the problems I'm supposed to have, if you're doing the work right, you're supposed to run into this stuff. So
Absolutely, and I agree with you 100% because as an African American lesbian, I often have to put on different hats. I remember one time I was having a show where I had a gay man and a straight woman, and I had scheduled them. They were opponents. They were going to be opponents in the primary. I had a gay man and a straight woman, and I had another gay person say, "Well, we have to watch out for our community." And I'm like, which one? Because I can't not interview the woman and just interview the gay guy because I'm a lesbian, but I'm also a woman. I mean, but that's a good thing because some people don't. if you don't have those experiences, it may not even occur to you. Well, who's not in the room, as Clerk Nicole Bolden always says, who's not in the room. And when you're encompassing so many different demographics, you got a lot of it covered. One of the things, though, I think that we miss out on, and it's, I learned it also when I was with my ex-wife. She also had mobility issues, and so it was a learning experience to be with someone who had to use assistance to get around, and seeing how disrespectful other humans were with someone who had a physical limitation or different ability, as we always say. What are some of the conversations that you have to have? Because I know that there's a need for us to really deal with and be more aware of our different abilities communities. I'm gonna hook you up with Councilwoman Grace Keller too, Kessler, down in Bartholomew County. But anyway, tell me about some of the conversations that you're having in all these different communities.
Yeah, I love that question. So, like, a little bit more about me. Like, I work in Countersin, which is usually more grassroots community spaces. I'm also a commissioner on Indiana disability rights. So I'm hearing the same questions from, like, commission and, like, I guess, I don't know, government-like meetings to the grassroots level. So one thing I'm hearing a lot, and I was on a community session, what was this? Yeah, yesterday for Central Indiana. It was for BIPOC people and disability community. Some people ask, well, why are we talking about race? I get asked that. And then, I'm in commission meetings for people just, why are we talking about race? And sometimes in other meetings, they're like, well, why are we talking about disability? And it's like, I'm trying to really push the narrative now to, and another question is, well, what is normal supposed to be? Because we just survived COVID. What is normal? And what I'm trying to do personally is make it normal to say we can acknowledge race and disability in the same room.
Absolutely.
Because there's different impacts, right? But there's intersections there. And that's something that I think our communities really need to grasp, because when something is accessible, it helps everybody. At the same time, like, if there's racial equity in a space, if there's, like, actual inclusion in a space, that mindset also helps people with disabilities, especially BIPOC people with disabilities. So that's something I noticed a lot in Indiana that I'm working on with a lot of other community and, like, just different commission leaders in the nonpartisan space. And, like, leading up to that too, I'm actually working on with the Named Advocates. That's the National Alliance of Melanin Disabled Advocates.
Okay.
It's a national movement. So November 8th, we're actually going to put on a summit for people, essentially people of color, BIPOC communities who live with disabilities, to claim their voice. Because, like you were saying, you identify as a Black and lesbian person, we shouldn't have to be switching hats anymore. And that's something where I'm like, I refuse to do that. And I think normalizing that conversation and pushing for that space, I'm hoping we can keep showing up as our full, authentic selves without feeling like we have to, code switch. It's outdated to me.
It is outdated, and I think people try to measure oppression, or they try to measure, how much I'm discriminated versus how much this person over here is discriminated. Well, discrimination in all forms is bad. So, yeah. and the part that kills me, and I see it more than I'd like to, is people can't see themselves in other people when they are being oppressed. I cannot understand why. Or sometimes, because I ain't gonna tell you it's all of them, because I know some that just. When sometimes our white sisters, are not cognizant of the racial barriers, when as women we have always had gender barriers. Or better yet, how do you not understand gender barriers with transgender people? How do you not understand? And it just, if it blows my mind. So I want to have those conversations about how we bring all these people together, because I don't want to say a tide lifts all boats, or, that phrase has been taken, but the bottom line is if I help you, I'm going to help everybody else, because there's more of you than you think that have a lot more in common. You can chime in.
Sorry, I was like, I'm doing this, I'm like, processing what you're saying, because we're right here. I completely agree. And it's just, yeah, like I said, it's just an important challenge to have. It's just so necessary that we're able to show up. And it's like, I saw this quote the other day. You were making me think of it, where it's like, oh, like some people say, oh, well, I don't live that, so I can't relate. But the thing is, you don't have to walk every day in someone's shoes to understand they are a human being. And if they are telling you something is bothering them or making it inaccessible, whatever the intersection is, listen to them.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to know every in and out and every theory to be able to be a good human being and support them, So like I was just like, yeah, like listen, I'm like, oh, yeah, it reminded me of that quote.
Absolutely, because I mean, think about it. We've been trying to, get some kind of common sense gun laws for a long time, and it doesn't hit anybody until it hits them at home. I remember there was an Ohio representative who was so anti any gun legislation that would, not limit, but at least accountability to gun laws, and he was vehemently against it until his daughter was caught up in a mass shooting. Well, why did your daughter have to be, luckily she was not harmed, but why does your daughter have to be exposed to a mass shooting for you to relate to other parents who have children who have been involved in mass shootings? I don't understand that. I mean, I get it. I don't know why they don't get it. So one of the things that I also am really happy about is that you're in Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne is our second largest city in our state. It has a lot of play, and after the redistricting, sorry, Allen County Chair.
That's a whole hot topic. if you want to, I can give you a sorry, this is a tangent. We're working with Chicago Lawyer Committee for Civil Rights. Chicago, they help Illinois and Indiana because we don't have an Indiana Lawyer Committee.
Okay.
We put out this report talking about the demographics in every area by race, including Allen County, and lots of us went to public hearings, and here we are.
Yeah, we know that they weren't actually listening to us. They didn't give a dag on what we cared about, and the only penalty for behaving that way is to actually vote them out. And there's so much apathy, about nothing changed. It's circular, right? It's a circular comment. Well, if I show up, it's not going to make a difference. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. One person can make a difference. Bartholomew County.
One person, one vote.
Yeah, the Columbus City Council is a majority, which I care about. You probably don't care about as much. It's majority Democrat. You see how I did that? It's majority Democrat because of one vote and one seat. I mean, it is so and so getting your message out. So you talked about training. What kind of training are you doing? And count me in.
I'm really excited. So last year, we were young, obviously, in a pandemic, but what we did was we hosted some Know Your Rights trainings because that count us in. We don't believe voting is the only way to civically engage. We want people to go to public hearings. If you're going to protest. If you're going to run for office. We're nonpartisan, but we're trying to hit every area that we can. And we held some Know Your Rights trainings. We partnered up with, Indiana Lawyer Guild chapter. And we told people about their rights when protesting, right? Because I think in Indianapolis as well as Fort Wayne, Allen County, that was a mess how that was handled last year. I think it was a human rights atrocity in my opinion. So like teaching people their rights and also teaching people here's how you hold them accountable. You can have legal observers at the protests that are representing the protesters that can give lawyers what they call like just some notes so that they can be able to represent people who may be unjustly arrested. So that's like one type of training to know your rights, like know what you're able to do and what risk you're going into in protesting to protect yourself, but also if you want to be an advocate as a legal observer. We had those kind of trainings. Definitely excited to bring some Know Your Rights stuff back. And we also had some election defender trainings, which I love. So what we did was last year we just did Fort Wayne and Bloomington. So 2 cities, 4 locations. We're looking to expand that to 7 cities this year to grow that program. And it's really hard defending elections, right? Because we all have our personal beliefs that we're passionate about. So we train you like, okay, when you're going to like defend elections or when you're going to register people to vote, This is how you gotta stay nonpartisan. This is how you listen to a person, what they're saying, what they're passionate about, like your rant in the beginning. That's important for people to feel free to say what they're passionate about and like guide them. All right, and here's what you do about it. So the election defender trainings, we just did workshops around that, and also just keeping morale up because last year locations were shut down with little notice across the state, especially in Allen County. We went from 118 to like 70 that year. Yeah. So like teaching them, all right, here's all the locations. Here's how you look up the person to figure out where they're supposed to go. If you see someone tired, this is when you hand them a snack and some water.
Yeah.
So we were really breaking down every level of like making sure people could vote. And unfortunately, in some of the areas that were dominantly black people, in Allen County, we're being turned away from the polls, and that's like, all right, we're about to get on the phone with election protection. So we were giving them every toolkit that we could offer to help people register to vote in the election defender trainings, but also help protect people when they did everything they could to show up. So that's something that we want to continue just with the Know Your Rights trainings and election defender trainings. We're really excited to just expand that for this upcoming 2022 local election.
And see, that's pretty exciting. You know, that's the wraparound services that we always talk about, right?
Yeah.
You know, I know in our Power of the Black and Brown vote, and I'm working on a Power of the Black vote, which I've asked you to sit on the panel for. Yes. Once I find you, I'm gonna get you on all the panels. But we break it down in that way as well. But I think you even went a little deeper because we usually talk about, when we talk about getting involved, either being an elected official, being in the party, and ours is obviously focused more on, being a Democrat, but being a precinct committee person, understanding what lobbying does and how it helps, understanding what being an advocate in the street and how to take that street advocacy and turn that into policy making advocacy. And then we talk about fundraising because, I'm sorry, ain't nothing cheap. Everything has to happen. And I love that because now you're expanding on that discussion and offering those wraparound services, especially the legal services. How did you even think about doing the legal services?
Yeah, and thanks for that. What helped me is like when I was at Fair Fight, what was really inspiring about Fair Fight Action is that they weren't quite doing the election defense stuff quite as much, but what made them unique is that they had a strong legal advocacy push in addition to voting education, and that's something I really value as well because I know you were mentioning legislation earlier. I think like by next week, I hope the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is going to be heard again in the Senate. And for people who don't know, that act impacted a case called Shelby versus Holder. And once that case, happened, it weakened the Voting Rights Act, which is why they're trying to reintroduce it again. And that's why I saw the value of partnering with people who are in the legal field as well, because
Excellent.
if we need people who are doing litigation and legal work to talk to the grassroots advocates. When we're all on the same page as community members, especially when we get people in office that listen to us, people shaking their boots a little bit like, okay, I need to act right. And that's kind of the approach I like to take. We have a strong relationship with organizations that have lawyers because I'm not a lawyer, but I'm in touch with grassroots and community members, so I want to make sure they're knowing what's going on because that's how the solidarity happens. And I think if we can keep hitting every area we can to tackle this system, I'm gonna do it. Like you said, we're gonna hit it from every angle we can.
Yeah. So. And then I love that because now, because sometimes we get intimidated a little bit about, we show up and, people who have deeper voices or bigger nightsticks show up and self-preservation is the first law of nature, right? So you don't want your head bashed in, you don't want to lose your job, right? All those things happen. But if we have someone right there holding our hands saying, wait, whoa, the legality of this is this, it kind of prevents some of those negative interactions, which they don't have to be negative anyway. If people just chill out, you know what I'm saying? First Amendment, don't your First Amendment and my First Amendment should pretty much be the same. As long as we're not not hurting you. Can take your thing off mute so we can talk, girl.
I'm like, yes, yes.
I see you. Yeah, because we don't want anybody to be now the thing that I do sometimes have worry about. You're working with an organization that says, legal organizations that are about, the civic engagement. How do we get some of our local attorneys, local lawyers who eventually are going to want to run for office? How do we get them involved in this type of work and training that you're doing? How do I do that? I like it. Yes.
Yeah, I think the first step is they're gonna have to want to show up, and like the legal people we work with, they're just like very humble, saying we just want to show up and listen, because like to your point, it helps us have strategies to protect our people, right? Because the last thing I want is to march people into jail.
Right.
Unfortunately,
right.
that's the reality we live in. But on the other hand, like when you have like just legal team members who are showing up humble, ready to listen, and just understand, like, legal professionals, they have value. They know the law in and out in ways that we do not have time to learn, unfortunately.
Right.
And on the other hand, like, there's a lot legal people, team members can learn as well, because you're not on the ground every day.
Right. Yeah,
so
right.
If you're talking to each other humbly and openly, like, sometimes it's not even about keeping the people safe. Sometimes it's like someone will come in from a community and say, this, and this happened. And the lawyer's like, whoa, who else has this happened to? And you see 10 other people raise their hands. I work with lawyers every day at my other job, and I'll tell you, that's how class action suits happen for accountability. And it's just, you have to talk to each other. And I think to bring them to the table, I keep, we can invite them, but it's also,
they gotta want to be there. Yeah, I'm hoping I'm hoping I have some of my Lambda Legal folk who are listening in on this show and have a little bit of extra time to donate or give to this organization, because just like the Lambda Legal, and they went through all their legal fights and all of that's exactly the same work that you're talking about. That's exactly the same work.
I love Lambda Legal. I went to some events for their chapters in Georgia, and organizations like that are important, right? Because you understand LGBT issues. Like, you don't have to come in the space and say, teach me about LGBT. But you know what I'm saying?
They do
like,
that.
You got Lambda Legal, you have Black Law Association. Like,
yes.
We need that.
Absolutely.
We need that, all of it.
Okay, so, it's the election season is here, right? Mm-hmm. And anybody that doesn't understand that, like I said earlier in my rant, Todd Young has 1 point. Let me make sure I say this right. He raised $1.5 million by the last reporting deadline. I want to see people run for Senate. Right now, I know of 3 people who are interested in running for Senate. And although their intentions are well, I worry. But I also worry about some of our other grassroots organizations about funding. And when you're talking about equality, that tends to be, even though you're not a partisan, it tends to be a left-leaning proposition, because the other side wants to limit the number of people who have access to the ballot, and the other side is like, yo, we want as many people as we can get. Talk about some of your fundraising efforts, because you're competing with people who are wanting to run for Senate, who have already declared. You're also competing with people who will be putting their names on the ballot for vacant House seats, new Senate districts. Talk about your fundraising efforts. And by the way, there's a link on this Facebook page if you want to donate to count us in.
But basically, come on in, though.
Right?
Come on in.
You know what I mean, right?
Period.
Just come on in.
I love the energy.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm happy to talk about that, because that's the thing, like, whether you're running for office, whatever party you're in, nonprofit or grassroots, the movement, you need some resources, right? So like for people listening in, if you're like a nonpartisan nonprofit like mine, I'm gonna drop like a great resource. It's called Give Black. GIVEBLK. There's no A in it. Give Black. And if you go on their website or their social media, it's actually a new platform started during COVID and the Black Lives Matter movements last year to focus on Black created organizations like ours. And it's really great because it matches you with fundraising resources. And I
Excellent.
learned, like, out of the billions of dollars that are given to nonprofits every year, less than 3% are given to Black-led and run organizations. So that's like one resource that I always tell people about, because there's not a lot of Indiana ones on there, and I want to change that. So that's one site that has helped us a lot.
Imagine that, only 3%. I mean, because racism ain't here no more. We we all equal now. Because only 3%. 3%. Okay, I just
billions of dollars, less than 3%. Isn't that wild?
but it's apropos. I mean, it's like it dropped. So we did earlier. We were talking about why we got to talk about things that are Black. Why we got. This is why. When when less than 3% of funding for nonprofits are going to Black organizations, that's a problem.
It's a problem. And, like, in addition to that, and this kind of ties back to your earlier questions of what are lessons learned. Like, we did other things like, GoFundMe, but I also really, like, acknowledge, like, if people are in crisis during COVID-19, the last thing I want to do is call everyone by one. And I know that's an important thing to do. And
sure.
We did a little bit of that for people who are able to donate, like, links like we shared. But I also just spent a lot of time just really defining with our group, just defining our vision and applying for just community grants as well. Because what we want to do is lift the burden off the community to just get invested in our community. So, like, we did a lot of grant writing, and from the Give Black connection, that every.org link that you have posted, it's nice too. Like, some groups like that help us do match campaigns. Like, for example, on November 8th, if you go on that site and you donate, they'll match up to $10,000. So, like, let's say people donated $2,000 through that link that day. They'll match another $2,000. So, like, just learning things like that, I'm trying to just give resources to the community and also expand the impact that we have. So those are, like, some strategies that I've done to just fundraise, and I really like talking about it because I don't like thinking about money. Like, I'm the visionary. Don't ever make me your treasurer or anything.
That's me.
But hey, I'll tell you what my vision is and tell you where to go.
And I'll get you fired up to get involved. I will get you so hyped and ready to go. Don't ask me to sit down and I don't want to be the secretary. I don't want to be treasured.
Yeah, I can't.
Not me. I don't even want to, like, run the thing. Let me be the number 2. I'll let you run it. Make all the hard decisions, and I'll just be the hype chick to, make life easier and maybe even be some, the roadblock at times to keep some of the nonsense out. I know who I am, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, these are amazing resources that you're sharing, and what I'm excited about is, like, golly, you're amazingly organized. Like, you did your homework, and you're sharing with our listeners how they can improve their nonprofits. Yo, keep talking about it then. I ain't gonna stop you. I'm gonna be quiet.
Okay. But seriously, like, I want us all to thrive, because that's something I see too, where and this is something I learned from, like, working in Georgia. It's not one group competing against another group. It's like, if we're all in sync, if all of our organizations are healthy, moving together, at least on some shared goals, it's a game changer. And that's how states become competitive. This is how everyone's voices are heard, So, like, I love sharing that kind of stuff because that's the point. I want everyone to win, I don't want people like, oh, I have this great idea, but I can't do it because I have no money,
Right.
Like, if people too, like, if you go on the site and if you want to sign up to our newsletter, what I often also do too is, like, I'll put those kind of opportunities in there, but I also put, like, job ops too, because another thing I noticed is, like, even for people like me, I had to work 3 jobs when starting Thomason. I don't come from money.
Right. None of us do.
But that's how people burn out. I almost burnt out because it's like you're trying to eat and do the movement. Sometimes it's hard. So what I also like to do is share, like, hey, here are opportunities and ways where you can do what you love and eat, which I think when you're trying to juggle so much, it becomes a privilege at a point where
Yeah. Yeah.
you're choosing to survive or movements. It shouldn't be like that anymore.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's kind of like personally, that's where I've been lately. Like I put a post up maybe a couple weeks ago where I was like, I wish my passion, paid like my day job, which I'm good at it. Yeah. But I cannot wait till 5 o'clock comes so that I can, get ready for turn left. I can write my IBJ article. I can go to fundraisers. I can organize people and collaborate with people about this engagement thing. And and like you said, it's a lot because I always had to have a full-time job, but I literally just spent the last 5 years interning, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing because I got a mortgage, girl. I'm
Right. No, I hear you.
mortgage and student loans, but it means so much to you. And the fortunate thing is I haven't burnt out yet. Like I feel like there's so much more that has yet to be done. Like the technology thing is in me, and I'm trying to like, okay, how can I use the technology in the civic engagement space? Oh, and make money, right? Because you gotta eat. And I'm glad you brought that up. So for those of us that are out here trying to find a way to feed ourselves with our passions, they can tune in to count us in. I'm going to make sure I sign up for your list so I can make sure I share your information on my team action page so I can get that out. I'm loving this.
That'd be great. Yeah, and even when other groups have opportunities, I tell them like, please let me know because I try to get everyone covered in there too, just so. Because sometimes people just don't know what's out there. They don't know there's a grant to fund you if you're doing certain initiatives, and I want people to eat and thrive. And
grant writing is not easy either.
It's not, no.
Because I know people that are paid mightily to write grants, and maybe if you can't write a grant, then you pay somebody to write the grant for you, or you take a class and learn how to do it yourself. But all of that stuff is so important in growing your organization. Mm-hmm. And it's exciting about what you're doing. And I don't mean no disrespect, but I love seeing the youth, right? I love seeing people, IYD, no, I'm an honorary IYD even though I'm 20 years out.
Listen, I'm all for intergenerational collaboration.
Okay. We got to bring it. I mean, because there's so much that we can learn from each other, right? Mm-hmm. I love it. And so tell us about, okay, I keep saying it and I need to get to it because we got like 10 minutes left and I want to make sure.
We're moving really fast.
I know. Well, time flies this when you're having fun. And I knew this was going to be a great conversation because you were so full of life and energy and knowledge and information and experiences and people need to know who you are. Like I had never heard of you and I was mad that I didn't know who you are just from being in the streets. And but then I didn't get a chance to get to Fort Wayne like I needed to. So tell us tell us about any activities or any events that you have coming up in the near future.
Yeah, and so one thing that we've been doing is we have community engagement sessions. Let me check the date.
You see me perk up, right? You see me perk up. Like, community, what you mean community engagement? What you got?
Yeah, so that one, it's going to be, so we had one last night for Central Indiana. This next one is going to be for Northwest Indiana to reach out to that community. Okay. And let me just double check and I'll send you the date, but it'll be next week.
Okay.
I think it's like 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
So that's one thing that we have coming up next week. And then like I mentioned before too, we have the match campaign. So if you go on that link in the, what I guess you call it the description, I don't know, the caption.
Yeah.
If you donate on November 8th, we're having a big push to raise awareness as well. That'll be 1 year from the 2022 election. It's going to be a campaign people can share, not just, donate. And yeah, besides that, on November 8th, I'm going to be working with the Named Advocates. That's the National Alliance of Melanin Disabled Advocates. They're having a huge conference that I'm going to be helping moderate as well. We're going to have Color for Change on there. I don't know if y'all saw the hashtag before, Black Disabled Lives Matter, but we have Jen White Johnson come. Like, it's going to be great. It does cost $129, but we have ways to financially support people to get that training. I'm trying to think. Those are like the big things coming up. Our engagements. We're out here
I
doing a
am just,
lot.
man, I'm in awe because I'm loving everything. It's not, you don't just tell people to show up. You say this is
Hmm.
how you show up. Here I'm gonna help you show up. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Somebody that's gonna uplift the entire community. I'm glad you went to Emory. Learn some things down there in Georgia, cause we need that. We need that. Listen, all of y'all been screaming about. We need Stacey Abrams. Her name is Jalyn, not Stacy. It's Jalyn. It's Jalyn. She got the knowledge. She knows how to win. The question is, are we gonna listen?
Mm,
Are we gonna listen? Are we gonna stick with our tried and true what we've been doing? Keep recycling the same old that has gotten us in the super minority, nonpartisan. Sorry. Are we going? Are we going to keep on listening to the same recycled stuff that has prevented us from dealing with these voting rights issues, these women's rights issues, these transgender rights issues? Listen, listen to what she's telling you. She's bringing it. Tell the people where they can find you.
yes, like please visit us, countusindiana.org, and it's just like COUNTUSINDIANA.org. That's also our Gmail, so like countusindiana@gmail.com, Instagram, Twitter, everything at Countess Indiana. Just follow us. Don't hesitate to reach out. The email I run it, so you're not sending it to an abyss. Like I will answer you. Like, and we're just excited to work with people too. So if you already have an organization, we love co-hosting community engagement sessions too.
Excellent.
So that's
Excellent.
something people should know. Yeah.
Okay, so Hope and Grid, I know y'all out there. Y'all need to hook up with Count Us In. They know who they are. They know who they are. I've already had them on the show. There's Better Indiana. I got a list of y'all. Y'all need to get together and collab because it sounds like there's an opportunity. Because one of the other things people are always worried about is overlapping the work in the
Yeah.
same region. And this is one way to keep that from happening. Is that you collaborate with each other so that you are utilizing our limited resources the best way we possibly can. All those organizations were nonpartisan that I mentioned, or
Hmm.
501c3s. So when I say Hope, Hope is one of my favorite ones. Grid is one of my favorite ones. There's a few more out there, but definitely, you guys get with Count Us In. Do you feel the energy this young lady has? This woman is doing her thing. She's doing her thing. She ain't letting. She's had obstacles put in front of her, and
Woo,
said
yeah.
and said, "I'm gonna go." My new saying: you got a few choices. You can go around them, you can go over them, or you can go through them. But you're gonna keep moving forward, y'all. I'm loving it. I love it. I love it. Jenna, thank you so much for joining us. Don't hang up just yet, y'all.
Okay.
I don't know if y'all been paying attention. It's budget season, and all the municipalities and people are coming out with their budgets. I want you guys to be aware of a few things that have been happening, especially in Central Indiana, more specifically in Marion County. And I've spoken to the president of the Lawrence City Council, and I am going to have Councilwoman Lisa Chavis on the show, and she's going to go into more in-depth messaging about that. I had a chance at Senator Bro's fundraiser the other day. We talked about it with my councilman Duke Oliver. These councils, these democratically led councils, are passing budgets that are funding and in many cases increasing the funding for law enforcement, police officers, body cams, and all this other stuff. Yet and still, especially Mayor Collier of Lawrence, he is running around telling lies, telling lies, saying that the Lawrence City Council is trying to defund the police. Now, we've seen this before. We have seen this before. Remember, Senator Scott and Senator Booker were working together to come up with some police reform. And then all of a sudden, everything breaks down because Senator Scott must have got a message from his bosses that told him shut her down. And he came on out and said, oh, we had to stop because they wanted to defund the police. This is where all of the stuff that Jalyn has been giving us about the advocacies and showing up to school, to board meetings and behaving yourself, acting like respectable adults, not like some crybaby behind people who don't understand social studies, or the fact that they sending their kids to school that are unvaccinated, whatever. I'm going to get off that for right now. But when you have elected officials and chief of police is saying that a council is trying to defund the police when the budget specifically calls the opposite. See, we only hear sound bites. And we're not really interested in going and reading the details and getting into the meat of these budgets. And then we will know, but we only hear the sound bites. We only hear just a little bit because we know 256 characters is all we can handle at a time. Don't let these people fool you. Don't let these people keep lying to you. Don't let these people keep telling you that your council members are doing things that they're not doing in order to frighten you and them getting you to go, oh, they don't care about public safety. We all care about public safety. Don't let these people keep lying to you. I cannot wait to have Lisa Chavis on because I tell you what, we just need the more sisters we got. I'm just gonna say like that because we don't get scared. You're not gonna make us nervous. You're not gonna intimidate us, and you're not gonna keep us from doing what we're trying to do, which is better lives in Indiana. So when you hear someone saying that the Indianapolis Marion County Council, City County Council, is trying to defund the police, it's a lie. Duke Oliver told me himself, because he sits in those committees. When they say the Lawrence Common Council is trying to defund the police, it's a lie. They said that they eliminated line items that said other. They weren't allocated to a specific location. They just said other. What does other mean? What does other? Other can mean other than in your pocket. You know what I'm saying? Don't let them get away with that. Pay attention to everything because everything is important to our communities. And if we want to make sure our communities are less than 3% of the grant money is coming. Whoo, you done messed me up with that one, sis.
It's tough to hear.
Yeah, it's tough. We already know if we don't scream and holler in the right way, and I mean not being violent, you ain't got to disrespect somebody to call them out on their BS. And I can't co-sign BS. So y'all, this is why I wanted y'all to meet Jalyn. She gave y'all so many different ways to combat the nonsense, to get involved, to get some legal representation, to help you grant writing, get the money for your foundations and your organizations, get voter education out, help people register to vote. This is what it's all about. And accessibility. Did y'all catch that part? Accessibility. Man, I'm Team Jalyn. I'm all the way there, Team Jalyn. Thank you so much for gracing us on Turn Left, y'all. Indiana's own Dana Black. Of course, you know I'm coming back next week with an amazing show, and in a couple of weeks, the first Thursday, I'm going to announce it tonight. The first Thursday in November, I have the chairman Mike Schmuel, the vice chairman, the honorable clerk, Mila Eldridge will be on the show. You will see some advertising on that. We had a great conversation last night. I love their commitment to making sure that there's representation on that central committee. I heard it. We can talk about it. You disagree with it, holler at me. All right. Indiana's own Dana Black. I'll holler at you next week.